Welcome to Beyond the Needle, the Aesthetics Business Podcast. I'm your host, Emily Ruse. I'm a former clinic manager turned digital marketing freelancer, and I've had the privilege of helping dozens of aesthetic practitioners across the UK and beyond grow their business. So I know firsthand just how challenging it can be to build a successful aesthetics practice in today's competitive market. Each week, I'm here to share real, actionable strategies and bring on expert guests to help you level up, attract more patients, and build a standout brand. Let's turn your passion into a thriving business together. Hi everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Beyond the Needle. Now, if you're an aesthetic practitioner or clinic owner, you already know how fast this industry is evolving. Trends come and go, treatments advance, and patients are now more informed than ever before. Right now, one of the biggest shifts we're seeing is the move towards regenerative medicine. Treatments that don't just mask aging, but actually work on a deeper level to repair, restore, and rejuvenate the skin from within. And if you've been thinking about investing in your first device or a new device, or bringing in a treatment that really complements your current treatment offering, then this episode is a must listen. Today, I'm joined by Matt Hubball, someone who knows the medical aesthetics industry inside out. Matt was formerly the UK and Ireland country director for Sofwave, a cutting-edge skin regenerative skin technology that's gaining global attention. He's now based in Dubai, where he's launched his own distribution business while continuing to support Sofwave in its international expansion. Today, we'll be diving into some of the biggest questions and challenges that practitioners face when it comes to investing in new technology. How do you separate marketing hype from real science-backed results? What should you be looking for in a device to ensure consistent results and a solid return on investment? And with the industry becoming more competitive, how can your clinic stand out by offering treatments that not only attract patients, but keep them coming back for more? In this episode, we'll be covering why regenerative medicine is the future of aesthetics and what it means for your patients and clinic, what to look for when investing in a device so you don't waste money on technology that overpromises and underdelivers, how Sofwave is redefining skin rejuvenation with zero downtime, proven results, and minimal treatment sessions, how clinics can stay competitive in today's economy and use the right technology to attract high-value, long-term patients, and what's next for regenerative treatments and how the industry is evolving beyond traditional anti-aging solutions. So if you've ever felt overwhelmed by the sheer number of devices and technologies on the market, or if you're considering adding a regenerative treatment to your clinic but aren't quite sure where to start, this episode is going to give you the clarity and confidence you need. So grab a coffee, grab a notebook, and let's get into it. Hi, Matt. Thank you so much for joining me this morning.
Hi, good morning, Emily.
So lovely to have you here. Would you like to start by telling us a little bit about yourself and just introduce Sofwave a little bit for everyone listening?
Yeah, of course. My name's Matt Hubball, for those that don't know me. I've been, for the past 3.5 years, the UK and Ireland country director for Sofwave. I've now just completed a full 11 years in the aesthetics industry since joining back in March of 2014. I have actually now relocated and set up my own distribution business over in Dubai, but I will continue to support Sofwave and help their growth back in the UK as and when is needed and required.
Amazing. So really excited to have you on today. I think there's lots to say about Sofwave and regenerative treatments in general and technology. You know, a lot of practitioners who I speak to are in that stage where they're considering investing in their first device and they want to know what they should be looking for and how to know if something's really going to deliver the results that they want to get for their patients. So I think over the last couple of years, you'll agree that we've seen a huge shift towards regenerative medicine. Why do you think this approach is resonating so strongly with both practitioners and patients?
I think it's because people are getting more understanding of what can actually be done and what type of modalities or treatments, skincare, injectables actually do, because there's more evidence. It's spoken about a lot more online through social media, on, ChatGPT, AI tools. So I think that's one thing. And I think also as well, people now understand that it's working on different parts of the skin at different layers, can do different things. And the main focal point should be starting by how do we actually regenerate the tissue to get it in a more healthier condition, so that subsequent treatments can be even better and more clinically, or the clinical outcomes are better, so to speak.
Yeah, absolutely. I think over recent years, people are moving away from just fillers, and they're realizing that fillers are great and they do a great job, but it's not just fillers. There are other layers of the face that we need to be addressing to get the best outcomes for practitioners' patients. And Sofwave is obviously a brilliant device. It is truly regenerative and it does focus on that tissue regeneration. Can you explain how it achieves this and why it stands out in this category?
And very, very good question. So Sofwave uses proprietary ultrasound beam technology. So if we look at the industry, HIFU is the original device that came back out around about 2008. All of the devices in the HIFU sector are based on the pre-existing technology. And the limitation was that you had to bypass the epidermal junction. Whereas Sofwave and the development team backed up and co-founded by Dr. Shimon Eckhouse, we're sure everybody is well aware of the inventor of the IPL. They developed a way of actually protecting the outer layer of the skin, so the epidermal junction, and bypassing that and delivering the energy parallel rather than going perpendicular into the skin and heating the skin up in the mid-dermal layer for a higher time period with a higher energy dosage, which then ensured it was more coverage. So there are certain parameters. You need to achieve at least 25% uniformed coagulation, and coagulation only occurs at over 60 degrees. But if you're heating the outer layer at 60 degrees, you're going to burn it, you're going to blister it, you're going to have potential post-hyperinflammatory pigmentation. So Sofwave enabled that to take place so that over the next several months, neocollagenesis, neuroelasticity kicks in, and we see a gradual improvement in the tone, the texture, and then sort of, a lot of people say to me, well, it looks like, skin has been removed. Well, it's not actually removing skin. It's revolumizing the tissue by the increase in collagen, elastin, and hyaluronic acid. So it helps it look like, it's been reattached, if that makes sense, Emily.
Yeah, amazing. It sounds like a really exciting technology. But before we dive deeper into Sofwave, if practitioners are considering going down that regenerative route, what, in your opinion, should they be looking for in a device to ensure consistent, reliable results?
I think the key point is looking at the evidence on the device. We're in a time now where there's a huge amount of social media coverage, influencers, TikTokers, YouTubers. And I think sometimes we get caught up in the hype of an influencer or a prominent person as promoted a particular treatment or a particular modality. And we forget about, where is the evidence? Where's the safety profile? Where are the clinical trials? Look at the documented studies. What FDA clearances? Because ultimately, yes, I know we're not part of the US, but FDA still has a prominent place because, you have to carry out trials to get through that process. And then what are the mid to short to long-term follow-ups? And do they have any significant data on humans as well, human studies in skin?
Yeah, absolutely. Because we've all seen a lot of clever marketing in this industry, but as practitioners, it's so important to dig deeper. What would you say is important for clinics to be looking at in terms of clinical trials, efficacy, and before and after data when evaluating a device? And how does Sofwave's data and evidence base differentiate it from its competitors?
I think firstly, you want to ensure that it's not only based on safety, it's also based on efficacy, because there are a slight differentiate between FDA clearances. One is based on safety. If there's already a pre-existing technology, you can go and apply for an FDA. It's then also looking at the clinical trials. What do they involve?
Yeah.
How many people? How many treatments? What was the follow-up? What was the patient response? So safety profile. Was there any adverse reactions recorded? How many treatments were needed? What was the patient tolerance? But then also as well, looking at, who are using the devices. And actually, rather than just specifically taking the words of the rep or one of the directors, this is something I always say, please don't ever take my word. Every person that ever sits in front of a clinic owner, practitioner, medical professional, all say the same thing: ours is the best in the world. Go and speak to people that that you respect, get their opinion, and ask them over a time period what their thoughts are. Somebody that might be using it for 2, 3, 4, 5 years. Then you will get a true, honest opinion of whether or not this actually does what these people and these companies are claiming that the device does.
Yeah, absolutely. That's so important. And one thing I think that stands out about Sofwave, why it's becoming so popular, because it's something that I'm seeing more and more clinics offering, is how it removes common barriers to entry for both practitioners and patients. So things like downtime and multiple treatment sessions. Can you tell us a little bit more about this and why it's such a game changer?
Yeah, of course. And I'm going to go back to the start, because if we know the gold standard in the industry has always been CO2 lasers, but let's be honest, CO2 requires maybe a significant amount of pre-preparation. You've got potential downtime, complications, and you've got to be, a little bit more patient selective. Even if you start getting into your darker skin types, just type 3, 4, and 5, you've got to be really careful about the potential post-inflammatory pigmentation. And everybody's been trying to reverse engineer since then. And what Sofwave enables you to do is you don't need to be an expert practitioner. Yes, there are, again, good modalities out there, but you might need significant learning curve. You might need an expert provider, or you might need pre-preparation, downtime, or adjunctive treatments to get a good clinical endpoint. Sofwave is simple. It's intuitive. The system is doing all of the work. It delivers the right amount of energy consistently at the right depth so that you don't get any transfer of heat down into the deeper layers, so there's no potential for subcutaneous fat loss. There's no potential for nerve damage or structural damage later down the line if delivered correctly, delivered during the training protocols. So it's ensuring that as a business owner or a medical professional practitioner, you can safely delegate this treatment out without having any concerns that you're going to get complications arising from it. And it's also ensuring that, if you deliver the treatment correctly, and typically it's a single treatment on a face and neck, every now and then some patients might need a second treatment on more problematic areas, but consistently most people get a result from that one treatment.
Amazing. And what areas can you typically treat with Sofwave? Is it the whole face, the neck, the body?
So now we had indications for all over the face and neck. Again, this is what, really appealed to me when I joined Sofwave, is the ongoing investment that I knew was coming. So, if you look from the first FDA clearance, which was for fine lines and wrinkles, the second one, which was for lifting of the eyebrow, the lax submental and neck tissue, and we can focus at that one for me. Sofwave is only the second ever device company in the world to ever get an FDA clearance for lifting of the skin. It's that difficult to prove in clinical trials. They've then further expanded that. It's now FDA'd for treating upper arm laxity. Now, body treatments can be 1 to 2 treatments, depending on the severity. And again, if we look at that one, Sofwave is the only company in the world that has FDA clearance for lifting upper arm laxity non-invasively. It can help with the short-term improvement of the appearance of cellulite. Again, FDA trial that got that. And would you believe as well, even though it's not an ablative technology, but internally it's a fractional device, but it's bypassing the epidermal junction. They did a clinical trial a couple of years ago on a patient group, I think around about 67 patients, looking at acne scarring. It's a course of 3 treatments every 8 weeks apart. And now the device is also FDA'd for treating and improving acne scarring, with an average improvement of 46% on the acne severity scale. So it's pushing the boundaries, and they're continually reinvesting back in as well, Emily.
Yeah, that's amazing, because that's not normally something that you would treat with an ultrasound device, is it? Is the
Correct.
scarring. So it's amazing that it it's going above and beyond what your typical ultrasound device would do. And obviously you mentioned HIFU earlier. I think a lot of people ask, well, what is the difference between Sofwave and HIFU? And actually, I think it would be easier to say, what are the similarities, because those two technologies do differ quite a lot.
Yeah.
Can you tell me a little bit more about that?
Yeah, I mean, look, let's look at ultrasound. I mean, ultrasound has been around in medicine for decades and decades. It's just the frequency and the delivery of it. So, HIFU is high intensity focused ultrasound. It goes direct perpendicular into the skin. It creates a 1 millimeter by 1 millimeter elongated thermal zone, which, heats it between, again, 60 to 70 degrees. But you're typically only heating the skin at between 50 to 60 milliseconds a second at a time. Or then obviously going down into the SMAS. The SMAS is obviously a different layer. We're looking at the mid-dermal layer. Whereas if you look at Sofwave's parallel beams of ultrasound, you have 7 transducers. The transducers sit in direct contact with the skin and simultaneously cool while delivering parallel beams of ultrasound. And each of the beams, the way to think about it, Emily, is they go down 1 millimeter deep by 0.5 millimeter wide, then 4 millimeters diameter into the skin times by 7. So you've got a much higher amount of tissue that is being heated, and that's for 4 seconds at a time. So it's exposure with energy and time while protecting the epidermal junction. And that's the fundamental. And the way to explain it is, it's high intensity, high frequency, low divergence parallel beam technology, which we call it superb. It's obviously a little bit of a mouthful.
Yeah, yeah. I like the fact as well that the risk of fat loss, well, there isn't a risk of fat loss, like you say, if the device is used correctly, which is
Correct.
something a lot of practitioners worry about with other devices.
I mean, just touching on the use correctly, there's no ever potential for fat loss with Sofwave.
Okay.
I think where the user correct is making sure you've got good contact on the skin so you don't burn, blister, post hyperinflammatory pigmentation and whelping. So just important to point that out. There's no any potential, even if it's used incorrectly, to get fat loss. That would more cause layers on the damage on the outer layer of the skin. Sorry to obviously just interject. I thought that was important.
Yeah, no, I think that's important. I think, yeah, that is something a lot of practitioners worry about. So I think that's probably one of the only devices where you can say that there's no, or one of the only devices in that category that you can say that there's no risk of
Yeah.
fat loss.
And that's evidenced as well. I mean, if you go onto the FDA website, any serious adverse event has to be reported. I mean, Sofwave is a listed company, part of the FDA evaluation and ongoing trials and clearance. You have to do that. And to date, since January 2020, there's not been one serious adverse event reported worldwide, with over potentially 400,000 treatments delivered.
Yeah, wow, that's amazing. And if someone is considering investing in a device like Sofwave, I mean, obviously Sofwave's it's an investment. What would you say is the time frame, or what can they be doing to make sure that they make that investment back quickly? Do you typically give advice to clinics for launching a new treatment or a new device, and what could they be doing?
Correct. So the business will look to put together a plan and a launch strategy. So we've always worked on the basis that we'll come in, we'll help and support the clinic to put together a launch event, ideally within 6 to 8 weeks. So there's sort of a 90-day planning strategy. We come in, we train, we look at working with them to target maybe their top 30, 40, 50 clients based on spend, demographic, look at getting them into an event. Sofwave will come along, we'll do a talk, a presentation, we'll do a treatment on the evening as well. Because the nice thing is with Sofwave, you can do an immediate treatment, you do a treatment and there's an immediate improvement. So you see a thermal contraction and lift. So that's great from a demo or an event perspective, because you can set that particular client up. The audience can see that there's a lift. And we openly, honestly, and say, look, it's nothing more than a slight Cinderella effect, but we've contracted the fibers. We know there's a significant clinical endpoint that over the next several weeks and months, as the production of collagen and elastin kicks in, that will then start to take hold and that will then start to show on a visual perspective. We then obviously help them with regards to providing assets for materials, patient leaflets, pop-up banners, before and afters, content online. So there's an e-store, a marketing suite that they have access to that they can use to obviously start promoting. And I think one of the key things that I always say to people is, and this actually came from, I don't remember me referencing him, is Minia Somji, Dr. Medispa clinics. And Minia said, if you look at what Sofwave is doing, anybody that's serious about delivering and improving skin needs to have Sofwave within their business, because it's the foundation and entry point to better, healthier skin. And it's putting the scaffolding and foundations back in place.
Yeah, so crucial. And I know you mentioned earlier that Sofwave's continuously developing. Can you tell us what's in the pipeline for it, or can you give us a sneak peek into what's coming and how these advancements will help benefit practitioners?
Yeah, so I am aware that there's been a clinical trial completed at the back end of last year for potentially a non-invasive lip lift. I don't know the data. I don't know when the potential FDA is going to come through for that, but I've heard positive things. And then recently as well, we've just held a KOL sort of key user meeting down in Mayfair. So this is something we do as a business as well. And during that, our chief innovation officer, a gentleman called James Bartholomew's, James's business is Keravive, that's licensed out to Hydrofacial. He's our chief innovation officer. We've developed a new sort of total energy protocol where we now know that if you deliver a set amount of energy per 4 centimeters squared, it gets even better results. And that's just a software update on the system. And then a new training protocol that gets sent out. So there's always an evolution. And if you actually look at the new technology as well, called Pure Impact for muscle, which has been added on, we only got one system for that, but it's now version 2, because over the last 12 months, they've been collating data in real time to evaluate contractions in muscle, fatigue in muscle, and they've redesigned the algorithms to make it an even more enhanced user experience and patient outcome experience.
Amazing. So that device that someone invests in now could be doing new things, years down the line.
Correct.
Yeah, and
Correct.
continually
Yeah.
continually offering new types of treatments to their patients.
Yeah. And I think that's an understanding. I mean, look, again, I don't know specifically, I've not been involved, but, the software is now, it's been designed in a way where, because it's got really high-tech user screening, that technologies can be added onto without diluting the capability of the technology already in the system.
Amazing. Are you able to share any kind of data around what people can typically expect to achieve in terms of results for their patients?
So, I mean, if we look at, for example, the FDA trial back in 21, which was for the FDA indications. Now, that was based on a clinical trial of 80 patients with an average age of 58 as well, would you believe, which is typically unheard of in this sector because that's postmenopausal rather than perimenopausal. And there's less estrogen in the skin, it reacts at a slower time period. Mr. Michael Gold, who is a prominent global plastic surgeon, did a quantitative and qualitative analysis of all 80 patients at 6 months. And this is on a non-invasive scale. 0 being no improvement, 1 being moderate, 1 being mild, 2 being moderate, 3 being significant. 92.8% of that patient group looking at 3 different areas. Upper eye lifting, lax skin around the submental and lax skin on the neck. 92.8 had a moderate to significant improvement at 6 months. If you look typically at modalities, we've been trying to achieve over the years a mild to moderate improvement. So to be able to take that to a next level is a really key advantage. And I think with these new protocols that are being rolled out as well, with this treating smaller areas with more energy to enable an even better clinical outcome, that's hopefully going to improve. And I've seen some of, the before and afters on the new treatment protocol, and they are quite significant, really impressive results.
Yeah, amazing. It sounds like a no-brainer for a lot of practitioners.
It really does. And, I'm going to say what a lot of, well, no, actually, near enough every single clinic that I've worked with, and, since September 21, when we officially launched, and Sofwave UK is a subsidiary of the manufacturer, we're in over 60 clinics. We're in some of the leading clinics up and down the UK and Ireland and worldwide as well. All of them say something similar at the first hurdle. Is this too good to be true? A few months later, 3, 4, 5, 6 months later, I ask the same question and they all go, no, it's not.
Yeah, when they're starting to see, the outcomes for themselves. Yeah.
Correct, yeah.
Amazing.
And look, patient selective, it can be 6 to 8 weeks when people start seeing improvement. It can be 4, 5, 6 months before people really see an improvement. But, we know everybody sees an improvement.
And are there any other treatments that you typically recommend clinics to use alongside Sofwave to enhance results? Like, a lot of people are starting to use exosomes more and more in treatment programs. Is there anything like that? Or
We don't specifically, but I think obviously it's a multi-layered approach, isn't
yeah,
it? It's not one solution fits all. What Softwave's doing is it's doing those deeper tissues in the mid-dermal at that regeneration process. And then what can be used in conjunction with it? I know clinics use exosomes, polynucleotides, or injectables, or, a more aggressive. If you've got somebody that's got deep lines and wrinkles and inset, you might want something a little bit more ablative for the upper layer of the skin. So it's not saying that is there something specific. It's more that, as a business owner or practitioner, it's about then obviously providing a treatment plan that identifies the needs and provides a solution to the clients, isn't it?
Absolutely. And just going back to kind of support for clinics. So I know you touched on this briefly, but investing in a new technology is obviously quite a big decision for clinics, not just financially, but also operationally. What kind of ongoing support does Sofwave provide to clinics to ensure that practitioners feel confident and supported in using this device?
So again, going back over the 3.5 years that I've been leading the division, we've provided ongoing training within reason. We provide support regularly for events. We've got an internal marketing digital team as well. And if you look at how Sofwave has evolved over the last several years from a digital and a marketing perspective, even from a branding perspective, it's constantly moving and progressing forward to make sure that we've got excellent assets. We did a sort of global, what we call Got Lift campaign last year, where all of our clients went online, posted, tagged us, and in return, they got a small amount of consumables to go alongside it as a thank you. And it's doing things like that. I mean, we've just done a video series with our top 10 users in the UK, again, to help us to start produce content. We work with an external PR agency that consistently drip feed through. I mean, if you look at the coverage on Sofwave, we've been in Vogue, the Times, the Tattlers, the Get the Glossies, Town and Country, all the big publications, whether it's online or in print, and the glossy mags, all love talking about Sofwave because they go in, they have a treatment, there's no downtime, they resume the normal activities. A few months later, they start seeing results.
Yeah. And I think as well with the current economic climate, patients' habits have shifted, and we were talking about this a little bit before we started recording, you know, and I'm getting a lot of clinics at the moment saying to me that people are spending less on injectables, or their injectable inquiries have declined, whether that's, you know, going to pick up again, who knows, but you know, people are seem to be more interested in skin treatments and what they can be doing from a device perspective rather than injectables. How do you think a device like Sofwave can help clinics not only retain their current clients but also attract new ones?
Good question. So firstly, from retaining their existing client base, clients are looking, as you said, for a more non-invasive, more regenerative approach. Sofwave's got the data. We know that, and this is based on human biopsies as well. This isn't based on animal biopsies, where single treatment, 10 months later, and the biopsy is done on patients between 50 to 60 years of age. It's done just in front of the earlobe on the side of the cheek. People potentially that may have 10, 15 years down the line are going to look to have a facelift so that they can have that removed. On every single biopsy, there's an improvement in an increase in collagen, elastin, HA, and a thickening of the dermal layer. So in some aspects, we now know as well, and James has sort of been able to quantify that Sofwave is probably generating about 4 to 6 cc of new skin. So if you can provide a solution where your patient's going to get an improvement in their thickening of their skin, reduction down of fine lines and wrinkles, and lifting of, and the opening up of the eyebrows, better jawline definition, who's not going to want that? And going back again to, you know, how do you attract more clients? Well, ultimately, you know, I know there's a lot of searches still for certain modalities by brand and by name. But if you look at, you know, Google Analytics, the significant searches are non-invasive brow lifts, non-invasive facelift, non-invasive neck lift. How do you actually provide a solution that gets that to an endpoint that those people looking for it are going to be satisfied and then continue to keep coming back once every 18 months to have an ongoing treatment?
Yeah. Is that how long you typically recommend that patients wait in between treatments, is kind of 12 to 18 months?
Depending on age and severity and what they want as well. You know, I know clinics that say to me they've got certain clients of theirs that they love it that much, they're coming in every 6 months for treatment.
Yeah.
You know, if you've got somebody a little bit younger, you know, that's got mild or you know, very minimal laxity, you know, 18 months, 2 years. Somebody a little bit older, once every 12 months. It depends on the age really, Emily, and how much people want to spend. But the nice thing is, we do know, I mean, there's been an evaluation done, external survey done over in the US, over 440 clinics. In the US, they have over an 85% patient retention rate over a 4-year time period with Sofwave, repeat business. I speak to clinics in the UK and they say to me, there's normally a honeymoon period with the devices. It's 10, 12, 14 months. You see the huge increase in revenue and then it starts to drop off. Every single one of them say year on year, revenues are projected upwards with Sofwave.
Because people love it that much, they're coming back time and time again. Yeah.
Correct. Yeah.
And some practitioners might be listening and have worries about, you know, what happens if another clinic nearby has the same device, or they have a clinic down the road has a HIFU device, which, you know, they're offering for a quarter of the price. How would you advise them to think about this? How can Sofwave help them stand out and attract clients despite this competition?
So again, firstly, let's go to their existing client base. Ultimately, people are coming to them and they've built up their client base based on their brand, their reputation.
Yeah.
And a lot of it comes through word of mouth as well. And Sofwave, to look at it is, Sofwave is going to provide a solution for everybody that walks through the door. And you shouldn't be competing with somebody across the road, because ultimately, you're not going to promote Sofwave. Yes, you are going to actively promote it, but you're not going to promote that as a standalone treatment. You're going to promote the solutions that it provides. And ultimately, as long as you focus on the solutions, you ultimately want to be providing the best technology, regardless if somebody across the road has got it. And actually, I get this quite a lot. And there was something carried out again in the US several years ago where they looked at, because we're always getting asked, oh, can I have an exclusivity agreement? But, well, actually, that's counterproductive, because it's been proven that if, obviously, city centre is very different, but outside of the city, if you've got smaller regions, if there's a 3 or 4 devices within a 6 or 7 mile radius, patient demand increases by sevenfold because it increases patient confidence and consumer confidence. And then with regards to competing events, other modalities, I think an easy way to explain it is, with your high-through devices, there's only one clinical proven high-through device on the marketplace. All others don't have FDAs and don't have any clinical data on them. And they do something in some aspect, but you might need 4 or 6 treatments to get the clinical output. Sofwave is one and done. And ultimately as well, it's about selling the benefits and the solution that Sofwave offers. And then ultimately, as long as the patient sees benefit and that they're going to get a good clinical outcome, you should then be able to sell the extra costs to them based on that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the fact that people can just come in for one treatment instead of going back time and time again for a course of 6 treatments, that sets it apart from HIFU in people's minds itself, just with that one, element of it. I think that's really good advice. I think that's, really, really, very true and very important. And sorry if this puts you on the spot, but do you have any examples or success stories from clinics that have introduced Sofwave and seen significant results, not just for their patients, but also for their business growth?
Yeah, lots and lots of them. I'm going to reference a quite recent one based in Nottingham called Dr. Jess Halali, Your Beauty Doctor. So Jess has been in business, I think, around about 4 years. Nice little clinic located on the outskirts of Nottingham. It's a small business. There's her in one room. She has a self-employed beauty therapist operating out of the other room. So she does some of the treatments for it on Sofwave. Jess only introduced it at the back end of September last year. And even in, that area, Jess came in at £2,495 for a full face and neck. She did a small internal promotion to existing client base. Within 5 or 6 weeks, she'd done over 30 treatments. And she said out of those 30, only a handful of them were non-full face and neck treatments. Near enough all of them were full. And she says she continues to see regular patients on a regular basis, week in, week out. Another one, and again, I always reference it, Julia Hart Skin Clinic. Julia's up in Dunfermline in Scotland. She's the only user in Scotland, and she's actually now just come into, was he 22 or 23? She's just done 2 full years, Julia has. A little bit less because it's in Scotland, 1995 for a full face and neck treatment. She only introduced it at the end of January in 23. I went up and we supported her with an event in the December that year. And by December, 143 people had booked in and had Sofwave treatments. Again, around about 80 to 85% were full face and neck. So the other thing as well is with Sofwave, don't think you've just got to go in and go do a full face and neck. You can do a brow lift. You can do lower face and submental. You can do neck, or you can focus on specific areas. You've got your arms, your stomachs, your banana rolls, your knees, so there's multitudes and there's a lower cost of entry. If you did a brow lift, again, single treatment, if you look at the clinical trial, the average lift was 2.5 to 3 millimeters. Why wouldn't you charge any, minimum £1,000 for that, 995? And you should see significant uptake on that as well. And there's multiple success stories up and down the country like that, Emily.
Amazing. And for clinics who are new to investing in devices or are unsure of where to start, what's the most important piece of advice that you would give them?
I think it's about buying the right device that's going to create longevity and consistent clinical outcomes. Again, don't get bought into the hype and clever marketing or, huge hype around certain influencers and people in the public eye. Look at what's going to develop a consistent revenue stream for your business built on patient outcomes and referrals. And that's one thing I love. I go into a lot of clinics. I go to every clinic and, I speak to practitioners, I speak to therapists, I speak to staff. Even the staff all say they love Sofwave because it's easy to use, it delivers results, and they get a huge amount of referrals based on Sofwave.
Yeah, amazing. No, I think this has been such a great chat. I think people will take a lot away from this, and hopefully if you're listening and you're considering investing in a device, this has helped you and maybe made you start to think about Sofwave as a potential addition to your treatment portfolio. But Matt, if people want to find out more about Sofwave or if they have any questions, can they reach out to you directly? What's the next step for them to take?
Yes, I'm going to be open and honest as well. I've actually just relocated to Dubai, so I'm not now even officially employed direct by Sofwave. So, for me, this is an unbiased opinion. And I wanted to join this because obviously, you'd invited me previously, Emily, and thank you very much. It's been an absolute pleasure. Reach out, go on to sofwave.uk, whether that's on sofwave.uk on the web, sofwave.uk. Our new sales manager is a lady called Louise Johnson. She's based out of Manchester, or if any of you know Charlotte Thomas, she's based down in London. Just reach out to us through social media. There's an online number as well. And yeah, just look into it. If you are thinking about, I think now is the time. And, giving you some examples, if you look at, I'm going to reference one person in particular, Dr. Jean Carruthers, the godmother of Botox. She said over 4 years, she was at MCAS recently and did a talk back in February. And I watched the talk and she said, it is her most used device in the clinic, so much so she delivers every single treatment herself. That's Jean Carruthers.
Wow, that says it all. Oh, wow. Well, I will leave all of those details as well in the show notes below. So I'll pop the Sofwave Instagram and website into the show notes so people can just head straight over there and learn more about the device, or, inquire if you have any questions. But Matt, thank you so much for joining me. And yeah, it's been such a pleasure. I'm sure people will take away a lot from this conversation. So thank you.